Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and today we're checking out Toejam Earl III Mission to Earth.
Yes. While Pentagon Funkatron is considered a black sheep, no one talks about this one. I didn't even know it existed until last year. Why? Let's find out.
Because there's a woman involved, isn't it, Jim?
Always out to ruin everything, right, fellas? Originally released in 2002, this was developed by Toejam Earl Productions and Visual Concepts. It was published by Sega and by Microsoft in Europe. It is a Xbox exclusive. This game went through development hell. It was originally going to be on the Saturn, and then it was going to have versions for the N64 and Dreamcast, and then it finally landed on the Xbox. So, anytime a game has development hell, it can only be good. And this is one of those games that never got to backwards compatibility, so it truly is an exclusive to the original Xbox console. Once again, you're Toejam and Earl, you crash land on Earth, but this time you have a friend with Letitia with you, so yeah, that's the thing. Your goal, get the 12 sacred albums of funk back so you can defeat the anti-funk. It's a Toejam and Earl story, what can I say? Let's get into it.
The graphics. I'll actually keep this fairly short because a lot of the things I've discussed in these previous game reviews, this game carries over. It's just rendered in a full 3D sandbox style world. And it has all the character, all the goofiness, all the special powers, but once again, it's just rendered in a better system. Now, we're not trying to say this looked as good as, say, Halo when that system first came out, but it's still pretty damn impressive.
The humans look weird in 3D.
They look pretty weird in the other ones, Jim.
Yeah, but it's more disturbing in 3D.
Maybe they're meant to disturb you, Jim.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Ow!
One warning is, if you're going to be cheap like Jim, and you're going to try this game with the original wires, go out, get yourself a pair of component cables, because you will notice right away a huge difference. And let's face it, if you're still playing your Xbox and you don't have component cables, what are you doing? Don't be a Jim.
What?
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to warn kids, Jim. Isn't that what we're here to do?
God damn it.
One surprising thing to note is that there's not a lot of clipping or pop-in for this game. Sure, things in the far distance might not be fully rendered, but it seems to happen pretty seamlessly, especially when you're going really fast. So we actually applaud the game and its efforts there. And no matter how many enemies are on screen or what you're doing, it pretty much maintains at 30 frames per second. So, when it comes to scores, I gave it a 7, Jim gave it a 6. When it comes to beer, I'm just going to add 1 for Jim, because that 6 is really from him being cheap and not going to component cables till the right time. So, enjoy that one, Jim. The sound. Well, this is the area where Jim and I disagree the most, because as we've established on the site, Jim is very illogical when it comes to his scoring of things, and I've brought up scores in the past, but we don't need to bring up old wounds, do we, Jim?
I'm always right.
What do the fans think about that, Jim?
I'm always right.
Exactly. So you get a major rehaul with the music. Once again, now that you're going to the CD-based system, like most franchises, you have actually clear, good music. And there are a good number of tracks to go along. All the sound effects, like most of the original games, can get a bit annoying. I will give Jim that. Especially if you hear these humans time and time again, it just drives you crazy. But the one area that I really like that sells this game to me is the humor and all the one-liners. Sure, after playing for multiple hours, you're going to rehear them and you're going to be able to remember every single line spoken because this game offers you the ability to speak to some of the humans and some other folks, and they can only recycle so many lines. But that is the last element of the humor that was this franchise that I felt was always missing, and now you have an actual voice for Toejam and Earl, whereas before I just kind of made it up in my head what it would have been. So I actually appreciate the humor, and I like the clarity in the music and the sound effects. I gave it a 9, Jim gave it a 7. When it comes to beer, I'm going to add 2, and guess who those are for?
I'm always right.
There you go, Earl.
The control. The control in this game is actually pretty solid overall, especially for a, early 6th gen action platformer. So, It's twin stick on the Xbox, so you get full analog control over the camera, which is a godsend in this game. It can get a little annoying at times because there will be tight areas and you'll be constantly moving the camera around, but the fact that it lets you do what it does, it makes the game better for it. All the face buttons do, something useful. One's used for your funk fu, one's used for shooting the funk notes once you unlock that, one's for bringing up the map, one's for bringing up your items, and then of course you can cycle through the menu so you can see what kind of items are left in the level or what objectives you have left to go through it. So everything has a purpose. And of course there's a dedicated jump button, which unlike the other games is actually pretty useful, and it isn't as bouncy and floaty as it was in the games beforehand. Really, I don't have any true complaints outside of, sometimes hitboxes for enemies can be a little weird, but that's a little bit out of the range of control. I guess the biggest problem would be sometimes the game's almost a little too tight, so you're always running the risk of just making a dumb jump into a hazard or off the side, just because you might have to be sick of juggling your camera, so you just make a leap of faith almost. But with that aside, I think it's a really well-done control scheme, so Brian gave it a 7 and I gave it an 8. And when it comes to beer, I'm just going to give it 1 beer for the reliance on that right stick.
Jim!
What?
Your mom thinks I have the right stick right here.
God damn it. Why? Why have I been doing this for 7 years? Why? Alright, the gameplay. So, at its core, this game is, as we said, like most of the other Toejam Earl games in theory, but in a 3D world. So, the biggest difference between this game and the other games is, even more so than the Panic on Funkatron, this game has a huge emphasis on combat. So the first move you start off with is your Funk Fu karate attack, and then you eventually get the ability to shoot Funkify notes at faraway enemies. And you're doing this for the most of the game. I mean, every single room and every single level, there are tons of humans in there, and you get a bonus if you convert all the humans. How you convert the humans? Well, using your Funk Fu or using your notes. Now, as you progress through the game, some humans are too strong for your attacks, so you're going to have to use some of your items you get from presents. So learning how to juggle that really becomes, well, a juggling act.
Jim, are you just recycling the same shit you had to do in every other game and you're going to talk way too long about it?
No, Brian. No, I'm not. So as you progress through the game, you obviously, like the past games, will level up. And also in this game, as you level up to different karate belts. So you have stronger attacks naturally, which will help you out the further along you go. Much like most of the early 3D platformers, this game can be a collectathon. But it does it in a way that progresses you through the game, so every level will give you certain set missions, which will be finding those 12 albums of funk, which is the main objective of the game. The game lets you find new presents the way it would let you find the old pieces in the original game on pedestals. So anytime you find a new item on a pedestal, it's a new item that you get in a present, which can be, better items throughout the game. So you can start with the Icarus wings, you eventually get better Icarus wings. You have rocket skates, you have more powerful rocket skates.
You're explaining too long, Jim.
I'm giving them examples.
Damn it.
There's a number of different hub worlds, and each hub world you'll have different challenge missions, you'll have specialty missions which will train you in new kind of attacks and items that you have, and you have these far off islands that you can fly to that can help you round out some of the items that you missed before, some of the humans. So it's not like you'll be able to skip any of these levels. You really have to go through every single thing. Along the way also, there's the classic characters that can help you along, that can restore your health or upgrade you, blah 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 blah. And surprisingly, there's DLC in this game. Unfortunately, the store is dead. So, rest in peace to that. I wasn't able to unlock anything there, but it's kind of cool to see something like this early on, especially in the Toejam Earl game. The overarching thing for the game is to defeat the Anti-Funk, who's really the only boss fight you have in the game, and you fight him twice, so that's something different for the series there. But overall, you have your set mode, you have your random modes, you have your hardcore random modes, so it's all about that item collection, getting through the game, getting all the items, and fighting the bad guy at the end. When it comes to scores, we give it 6s. It has some cool ideas to it, but just overstaying its welcome so much, everything just starts to grate at you after a while. When it comes to beer, I'll give it 2 beers. 1 for being way too long, but 1 happy one for trying something new with the series.
The originality. Well, just like the last game, this is really starting to wear thin with this series because you've seen the characters, you've seen the humor. The only thing we can say is they added to that. You have Letitia as a playable character. You have a few different enemies and a few different items that Jim mentioned. And then, of course, now you have actual voice acting with more adult humor thrown in there. But honestly, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel to give this game any points, so we had to settle with 2s. When it comes to scores, I'm not going to add any. I actually can't blame them. They went with this gimmick for so long that you really can't veer too far, so no need to add alcohol.
Alright, replayability. Well, much like all the other Toejam Earl games, you have multiplayer, you have the random mode, you even have harder random modes. So there's reasons to come back. Plus with the DLC for back in the day if you were an early adopter, and just the fact that there's so many freaking levels and things to collect in this game. If you're a completionist, you have a long track ahead of you. So, we both gave it 8s. And when it comes to beer, I'm just going to give it 1 beer for my god, there's so much to this game.
So overall, it's very similar to the other Toejam Earl games. It's just realized in a real 3D manner with better graphics, much better sound, a little more humor, but still that same problem of coming off a little tedious in the end.
Yeah, and oh god. So this is definitely one of those love it or hate it games, and while this one is weird because in the beginning, I hated it. Then you get like about 2 hours in and you hit that sweet spot where you really know what you're doing and you're like having fun with it for a little while. And then after about maybe the 6 or 7 hour mark, you go, oh god, I'm only like a third of the way done this. This game overstays its welcome so badly. I mean, there's so many levels and there's just more doors and more unlocking and more doors and more items to get. It just gets so frustrating by the end. I like some of the ideas they had. I like some of the mini games they threw in here. I like some of the skill things that they threw in here. And I like the items. Like, the items are fun in this game to use. But, my god, this game could have been so much shorter. And, like, I just played through it once. I can't imagine going back to it again and again on random modes. Like, you have to be a sadist for that.
Yeah, and so when it comes to scores, I gave it a 7. Jim gave it a 6.
It's a generous 6.
Yeah, the problem is, like Jim's saying, if you play this game in short, like little bursts with your friends, you'll get a lot of humor out of it. You spend hours with it, it'll probably wear on you.
My god, the quotes.
So, when we combined all of our scores together, it rounds out to a 6.6. Actually is just a little bit higher than the original Toejam Earl.
That's a crime.
Which is going to be blasphemy, but honestly, I think that game is just a bit overrated. And this game, if you take it on surface level, it is technically better.
Agree to disagree on that one. I don't know. I think the original one has the ability to be that certain right amount of time.
It's just you're really Sega fanboys here. Like, yee,
this is made by Sega.
I know, but
this is a Sega game.
But I'm saying you didn't even let me finish my quote of making fun of you. It's the old Genesis argument. We had exclusives that were cool. Look at Toejam Earl.
Well, this is an exclusive, and it's one of those games that, well, like I already said, it's one.
Jim,
of those...
I'm making fun of the Genesis. Shut the fuck up.
Just end the video.
So, until next time, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
When it comes to beer pairing, I decided to go with the Funky Buddah Brewing Company's Morning Wood. This is the updated Imperial version of their maple bacon coffee porter, just like this game is an upgrade to the previous titles. This has a ton of flavor, comes in at 12% alcohol, and of course with the sexual innuendo, it flows very well with the humor of this game. So, grab yourself a big bottle and enjoy, but remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly. As always, guys, thanks for checking out this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you give us a thumbs up, leave some comments, or better yet, why not subscribe? Till next time, guys, cheers.